Japanese shoot-'em-up action with UN Squadron. UN Squadron is a 1989 game from Capcom arcade shoot-'em-up, known in Japan as Area 88. And that apparently is a manga series that I know nothing about. You may know something about it. We're more concerned with the game, but the characters in the game are from that series. It's an attractive shoot-'em-up, as you can see, spread across 10 levels, lots of big baddies to shoot, and two-player action as well. And we're going to start off on the Amstrad CPC. As usual, really, I had this game. I had it on a compilation with Strider and another game. So you pick your character, and then you're given a mission briefing for each of the 10 missions by a man with long hair. Then you pick which power-ups you want. Pay close attention to the guy selling you the weapons, because he looks different between the arcade and home versions and the SNES as well. And off we go. Your power-up is limited. I've got the bullpup at the moment, which is firing off, so I've got 31 of those left. You've got your general laser weapon. Here on the CPC, the music carries on all of the time in the background as you go across this kind of industrial zone. C64. The home computer ports came out in 1990. A lot of them reviewed in the early part of 1991 in the magazines. Must have just made it out for Christmas. Each of the pilots has a different plane. And here we are again. Rob Newman is telling us what our mission is, and slightly different power-up screen on the C64. You get money for shooting the enemies, as is the fad at this time. There are lots of different games where you do this. And quite small sprites on the 64. No music. C64 ideally suited in its hardware to games like this, with smooth scrolling and smooth sprites. But you're probably already picking up this is feeling a bit generic. Aside from the inverted commas real world setting, and this does look quite Gulf War, which was still a big thing at the time, this first level, doesn't it? It looks like you're going over some kind of oil refinery. In fact, that's what I thought when I first saw the magazine reviews. UN Squadron, UN involved in the Gulf War, and you're flying over an oil refinery. Well, it's obviously you're going over Iraq and Kuwait, aren't you? But of course that's not the case. Or perhaps it is. Spectrum version, which is distribution denied by various Spectrum sites, because just anyway, I found a copy and got it working eventually. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a pain. Starting off on the Plus 2, we will swap between the Plus 2 and the 48K Plus, because people like to see that. And you get some nice graphics on the Spectrum of all the different pilots you can be. Winners don't use drugs. William S. Sessions, Director, FBI. A cost of the 48K. And to be honest, this is more a logistical thing, because this game's a massive multi-load on the 8-bits. And the only versions of the file I can find with TZX, which I can't get working on real hardware easily without the massive multi-load. So I snapshotted it all on a emulator and then loaded it in that way. Completely silent on the 48K. Monochromatic graphics, which is a little bit problematic when you get low down on the screen against the background. Across the Plus 2, where it's a little bit clearer, but still a lot of clarity in those graphics when you're running against the backgrounds, which is a shame, because the definition of the graphics is absolutely brilliant on that tank. Now here's the thing as well, you may be thinking on the Spectrum 128 that it's silent like the 48K version. It is not. If I amplify the volume here, you can just hear the music. There's some kind of incompatibility with my Grey Plus 2 that makes the audio level really, really quiet. In the emulator, if I set it up for different machines, it's fine, but no, put it into a real Spectrum and it's super, super quiet. And yeah, that's pretty much the music you should be hearing in the background of the game that gets on your nerves pretty quickly. So again, we pick our weapons, and of course it's flashing on the screen because I'm using a cracked copy automation. Crack this. And here we go on the ST. And one of the complaints about the 16-bit versions, which seems ludicrous after coming across from the Spectrum version, some of the reviewers pointed out the graphics were hard to see against the background, which I'm not feeling much sympathy for, given I've just come across from the Spectrum version. But there you go, it's something that Zap pulled up on the Amiga version. Not the best scrolling on the world on the ST, it's jerking across a little bit. Using my bullpup there. Any unused weapons at the end of the level, you get cashback. Like going to the supermarket, cashback. And unfortunately, what you can't do is you don't get a huge variety of weapons to choose from. Either over to the Amiga, so you might be thinking, oh, Chinny's running Isla's A1200 again, and it's running ludicrously fast. And yes, this is my A1200, but I can assure you from all the videos I've checked, this is proper speed. This is what the Amiga version runs at. So it's not smoother scrolling than the ST, it's just faster. Why don't I make it scroll smoother? Yeah. And the first level is over remarkably quickly. It's all done in about 30 to 40 seconds. There is a Super Nintendo version. It came out in 1991, I think. Game's based on a big Japanese franchise, so of course Nintendo would want this on their brand new console. And look, you get all this Mode 7 scaling stuff for no other point other than the SNES can. This is the showing off. And off we go, and it's far more reminiscent of the arcade. Look at this. This is what the Amiga version should be like, but isn't. Burt Tank is dealt with very quickly and easily. And then you get this scaling this is just the beginning animation there. Here we are, Burt Tank on the Amstrad CPC. Suddenly seems very slow on the CPC, doesn't it? And yeah, now you're going to be faced with a massive multi-load unless you've got the game on disc. That was my problem with UN Squadron on the CPC. The multi-load just absolutely killed it for me. I have something for you. Are you interested? And that guy there sells you power-ups in terms of the weapons, but also things like shields as well. So again, on the CPC, as I say so often, as a static screenshot, you'd be looking at this and going, this is quite nice, but it does chug. It doesn't affect the playability too much. What kills the playability of the game is one of the worst multi-loads known to man. Over the monochromatic game on the Spectrum. We're shooting down these massive sprites here that come along, which move pretty well on the Specky. Just a shame it's all so mono, I guess, to avoid colour clash. And again, there is music to drive the action along, but here on my Grade Plus 2, it's so quiet you can't hear it. There you go, there it is down in the hiss. ChinnyVision comes out every Thursday evening UK time with real hardware reviews and various things to do with 8 and 16-bit microcomputers and even the occasional console. You can support us on Patreon for just $1 a month to get previews and the occasional exclusive. We are, of course, also on Twitter, Instagram and Discord, although don't ask me how to find those, you just have to kind of Google them. And smaller sprites on the C64, even the big end of level baddies here, the Stealth Bomber, but your sprite is tiny and the Stealth Bomber is quite small as well. On the ST, it's a much bigger size. And on the Super Nintendo, this is what you want. Okay, it's a couple of years later. And by the way, if you're looking at the amount of money I've got on the SNES, I'm playing a cracked version on an SD card. I have all the cheats turned off, but it's decided that I've got infinite money and infinite power-ups as well. Annoying, because you want to play the game first without any cheats. But on this occasion, no, the cracks I've got all seem to be the same one and just give me all that extra stuff even when you've said no to stuff. Even with all this polish on the SNES, there's still something about UN Squadron that Zap identified. There's nothing really special about it. Nothing really stand out. It's not R-Type. It's not like Gradius / Nemesis. There's nothing there to make you go, wow, I want to come back to this and play it again. It's almost like a shoot 'em up by numbers. On the SNES, you choose your path through the game. So Rob Newman there gives you a briefing. And look here on the SNES, your man looks suddenly very old. Looks like he should be running the Mermaid Yard in Tarrant. Is have the younger guy in the other versions. And you can carry 2 power-ups on the SNES as well, depending on which plane you've got, because you also upgrade your planes to different levels as well, and that lets you have different power-ups. But still, you've seen all this stuff in so many other games, Xenon 2, and Blood Money and so on if you've got a home micro. And the power-up system is done far better in games than the arcade like Gradius. Yes, yeah, here on the SNES, got those lovely graphics. We're over to the Spectrum now. And yes, green on green if you get too low down on the jungle level. Make it quite hard to see what's going on. I think it's Tiertex who did this game. And it's their usual thing of porting across. They design all the graphics on a PC somewhere and then port it all across the Spectrum. So see how young the guy looks there. Yeah. They pulled it across and it all looks very detailed, but the graphics just lack something that if they'd been hand-drawn on a Spectrum or specifically for the Spectrum, and it's just designed to avoid colour clash and just get the game onto the system. I mean, you could have a splash more colour there. Back on the Amiga. This is one of the end-of-level bases that you have to destroy, which is quite hard. And they've got lasers and missiles and things. And you have to shoot all the domes. And when you get to the end of the base, your plane will, in a minute, flip round and gasp! You're going back the other way. See, there you go. And why there's no music on the C64? Perhaps there is, perhaps it's turned off. But I can't seem to find any, and you'd think on the 64, when the other versions have got it, including the Spectrum, remember the Spectrum has music, You just can't hear it on the capture I've done. But yeah, C64 version suddenly seems very Spartan. And that's the dome castle thing destroyed here on the 64. Bonus cash awarded. More loading. You'll be bored by now. I know I was with the Amstrad tape version. And still on the 64, and this is the following level. We go against this kind of big aircraft carrier. And this is perhaps one of the things that does stand out in the game, these big end of level baddies. But really, on the 8-bits, they're nothing special. They're fairly easy to defeat as we flip across to the Spectrum. And look, you only get to see the end of the carrier. They've cheated it. You just get to see a little bit there. Oh no, we do get to see all more of it. Mission 6 on the CPC. And they tell you what the bombs do. This bomb is stronger than the standard bomb. And this is the cave level, the obligatory shoot everyone in a very confined space and have to fiddle around in tight caverns level that every shoot 'em up of the era seemed to have. I seem to remember Amstrad Action didn't mind the game, but didn't think it was spectacular. I don't have the score in front of me, but I remember reading it at the time and just thinking, well, that game looks good in the screenshots, and then just them saying, could be wrong there. My memory says that they didn't really find it anything particularly special. I don't like these tight sections. There's a lot of guns in placements as well. They're the same colour as the caves, which makes them hard to spot, even with all the CPC's palette. That's a deliberate decision, which I don't like. These things just seem to give you points and presumably money at the end. Cave level on the C64. Watch down below where I am at the moment. Missiles come out of there, but seemingly not at the moment. And again, you're thinking unspectacular, even on the ST with all the extra power. And look, they've reused the carrier sprite again. So on the SNES, what you can do is got these extra levels where you have to pick out these convoys and destroy them. So down we go. This bit looks very nice. You have to destroy the convoy, and you have 40 seconds to do it. Which is really just a case of making sure you're armed with the right weapon, because the first time I did this, I had the wrong weapon, and it was very hard to destroy the convoy. In fact, I failed. But it's just a timing thing here. Drop my napalm there, that should have done it. There you go. And you get the extra bonus for the amount of weapons you don't use. Back on the Amstrad. We've got a big submarine or carrier, or what is it? It's supposed to, I think it's a submarine. I've got to drop all my bombs on. Music cuts out. Oh, one of the channels, the music cuts out when you fire your weapon. It's not uncommon on CPC games, or indeed any AY based system. And there we go, mission 8 cleared. I now have to wait for the disc to access because, as I say, I keep on saying this, it's a multi-load. Mission 9, destroy the arsenal. And we're going to do it with the big boy, which is the most destructive bomb, which we've got 50 of. This is mission 9 on the Amiga. You've got these robot arms and bombs dropping out the sky. It's quite frantic, actually a quite nice level. And you get the best weapons by now. Look at the amount of destruction that thing causes. Just dumping those bombs off. And with infinite lives, I really don't care. I just need to want to get through the game now. You wouldn't be playing this for fun anymore. It's not a game that drags you back for more, because really it's the same thing over and over and over again, just with different graphics. See, look, he's all young there. I keep on saying this, young, old, young, old. And this is the final bandit. It's a giant spaceship here on the Amiga. And you have to blow up all the turrets and then basically blow it up. Last level on the C64. A little bit different. It's rather more basic. On the ST, this is the final bit of the last level. You get inside the spaceship. It's quite hard now. You don't have infinite lives. And you just have to keep on shooting that sphere until it blows up, and that's game over. This is my last visit. I shall never return. I feel very much the same way about having played this game. Thus, Project 4's plan was thwarted and Priest was brought back to wherever. That was a brutal war. We can finally live in peace. Until the next time, there are sequels. Our mission is finally completed, and there's the 3 of them. Please do go home. And on the CPC, you see the back end of the spaceship as the level scrolls up and down. You don't go all the way around it like the other versions. You just kind of shoot it from behind and just destroy it like this, which kind of works. You just get this congratulations screen. UN Squadron, well, it's an unspectacular Japanese arcade shooter. I doubt it would be much remembered if it wasn't for the fact it had a release on the home systems. 8-bit versions, well, the Spectrum version feels quite poor actually. The fact the sound doesn't work properly on my Grey Plus 2, the horrible multi-load, and the fact graphics blend into the background very, very easily. You saw it on composite, imagine it on RF. CPC and C64 also suffer from the same absolutely horrific multi-load. They are somewhat more playable. CPC version, it's a bit choppy, I'm afraid, but it looks fairly attractive, but there's no decent gameplay there. Or on the C64, come to that, there's better shoot-em-ups to be played. On the ST and Amiga, they've done the usual thing of a half-baked port from the arcade, and the problem is there's not a lot of substance to the arcade machine, so what you end up with is something that basically very, very average. And why is that Amiga version so fast? As I say, all the videos I've checked online of the game running on A500s, that is the speed the game runs at. They should have sorted the frame rate out and lowered the overall speed. Super Nintendo version is the closest to the arcade and it feels very, very polished. But goodness me, you've spent all that money on a Super Nintendo cartridge and all the other games you could have been playing with that money, decent shoot-em-ups. Zaps review talked about the graphics on the Amiga version blending into the background. Well, it's kind of like the entire game feels like something that blends into the background. It's unspectacular and doesn't really offer much more as you progress through the game. I can think of so many games that do the mechanics this game has so much better. And then when you start comparing it to things like R-Type, Gradius and some classics from years before this game came out, you see just how inadequate and it's bland UN Squadron is. Yes, it does give you 2-player options on all of these versions, but that's about the only thing you can really say about the game. And yeah, it's done so much better in just so many other games.